Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Gluestick channel. I've had some requests to hear about the games that I run and the campaigns, the stories around the campfire that is our gaming table. Well, the monster I will talk about today has a formidable and well-deserved reputation in our gaming circle, because whenever it shows up, someone's gonna die. And the very last session we played was no exception. The Chuul doesn't seem like the most evil beast. I mean, it really looks like a giant lobster with tentacles sprouting out of its face, but it's incredibly dangerous, deceptively so. I've had player characters that take these things on in a number of subterranean locations, always near or in shallow, tepid pools or flooded dungeon chambers that were difficult to see in, but they knew that they were there, sliding into the water like an alligator from a muddy bank or a ripple across the still black water, reflecting magical light or flickering torch flame. And then, as the characters rush in to fight them, they move into the water or get dragged into it, and they're mired by the difficult terrain or locked up as tendrils ensnare them. Pincers clamp down on limbs. Some are dragged under the water. The Chuuls seem to move with a purpose. They flank and then close in on those who brandish magical weapons, or they chase down those who are throwing spells. In the mayhem, someone makes some bad rolls. Someone forgets to concentrate on all their attacks on one target at a time. Someone hangs back or wastes an action, and the next thing you know, a player is checking the handbook to see how long their character has got before they start to drown, or people are asking how many hit points someone else has, or everything is sort of there. Everybody's watching every single dice that hits the table. Everyone's metagaming. Nobody cares. Someone's character is in severe trouble. Nobody knows exactly what to do about it. The Chuuls sense a soft target and they converge on the fallen. And then that character's just gone. Dark blood and black water, and the Chuul just some retreating ripples taking their meal away with them. Stunned silence at the table. In the last campaign session, 5 level 7 characters, admittedly tired, low on spells, they hadn't had a short rest or a long rest for quite some time, racing to head off a greater threat, in unfamiliar surroundings, ran straight into a lair of just 3 challenge rating 4 Chuuls. It might have been 10 or 12 rounds later, probably less actually, and the fallen Asmar alien warlock was dead, and the party was in full retreat, with 1 dead Chuul to show for it, and the dwarven barbarian had also thrown 1 very nice flaming axe, accidentally hurled into the middle of the flooded chamber, but damned if he was going back into that water to find it, and the legend of how deadly Chuul are has added another notch to its belt at my gaming table. So where do these things come from, and what exactly are they? In the game, they've been in every core monster manual since 3rd edition, and they received a detailed ecology article in Dragon 330 back in 2005. So let's take a look at that and more modern sources. In 5th edition, it's updated the origin story of the Chuul to say that they were simply created by the ancient Aboleth Empire. And that's fine. It doesn't contradict the original tale of their appearance too much. Originally, Chuul were the result of rampant, accelerated, savage ecological engineering by a single powerful being. And I guess that being could have been an Aboleth. It is never directly stated what it was, and the Aboleth certainly fits the bill. All we know of this entity is what is revealed by the ranting, magically dominated lizard folk who depicted the entity as a mighty god who resided on its tropical island home, protected by huge enforcers. This creator entity was killed when other beings arrived on the island from across the ocean, and the enforcers were not there to protect the creator god, so there could have been an Aboleth. The entire island is a nightmare death jungle full of feral mind flayers, beholders, carnivorous plants, 3-armed giants, gibbering mouthers, as well as the Chuul. This was discovered by a mage who was following another mage to the island after some fabled treasure, but they just ran into an absolute nightmare and nobody survived. The Chuul are immune to poison because they do not have a normal physiology. They are actually a symbiotic hybrid of 2 creatures. One a serpent worm with paralytic tentacles that latch onto its prey and control its mind while the worm is eating them, and it's more like a serpent actually. And the worm's favoured prey were large insectoid crustaceans, kind of like mantis shrimps with massive crushing pincers and a thick exoskeleton, and the relationship between the 2 species was magically corrupted and they became bonded together as a new form of life, the Chuul, created by this powerful being. I guess it was an aboleth. These aberrant creatures are born with a racial memory, clearly recalling events from previous generations and able to access cloudy information from back in the race's history. This also lends credence to them being created by aboleth, because aboleth can do the same sort of thing. The memories deliver one clear message: they hate humanoids. Kill them all. Chuuls will attack humans and elves, dwarves, halflings and other intelligent humanoids. Basically any humanoid that they find. They don't make any distinction between them. Whenever they have the opportunity, they will attack them. They do not prey on other aberrations or subterranean creatures who are not humanoids, although they will defend themselves if they're pestered by them. So they can have alliances with beholders, for instance. Chuul find the aberration form, their aberration form to be pleasant and acceptable, and they find the humanoid form to be as hideous as most humanoids consider the Chuul to be. And since the typical humanoid reaction is to wipe out the Chuul, their hatred is continually reinforced. Every encounter with them just increases the fervour that they hate their detested enemies. Born hoarders, Chuuls keep trophies from their kills, like they collect shining armour, glittering amulets, as well as saddles and backpacks and vials of potions and things like that they find interesting. The Chuuls are savvy enough to barter with other creatures for these hoarded goods, but only when they're offered captive humanoids or other delicacies in return, because they have a fairly interesting appetite. If a victim carries no treasure or trinkets, the Chuul keeps the skull as a display item. The one part of the humanoid that Chuul never actually eats is the brain, because brain tissue is poisonous to them. So they either discard it from their lair or they trade it with mind flayers. Although mind flayers are technically humanoids, I guess they count as non-humanoids as far as the Chuul are concerned, because they're suitably creepy with tentacles coming out of their face, so they've got some similarities there. Actually, there's a great random roll table in the original Dragon magazine article with the sort of trophies that you can find in a Chuul lair. They include things like a circular sunburst pattern of leg bones with a black dragon skull in the middle, or an elf skull randomly pierced with a bunch of elven arrows, or a quiver of humanoid leather stuffed with elven rib bones. I particularly like that one. And a lizard folk spear thrust through a bunch of halfling skulls, or a shish kebab made of human hands and snake meat. Just lovely stuff. Chuuls live in small groups called pods in bodies of still water large enough to support the pod, and they use rivers and oceans to travel, but they prefer to settle in swamps, jungle lakes and underground seas. They can also actually exist in desert environments too, because they quite like sandy terrain, and in some articles it says that they don't actually like swimming that much, although they seem to have abandoned that concept in later editions, and I certainly never play them that way. I always have them as amphibious, so they use the water to their advantage for sure. Also in 5th edition they've got a new ability to sense magic. They can sense magic within 120 feet as though they had a detect magic spell going. So I used that tactically to single out characters that had magical items of interest, and also magic users, which they zone in on. Some find comfort in lairs closer to urban areas, such as sewer tunnels or a shipwreck near a coastline. And since those sites provide more accessible food supply, because they tend to attract humanoids. Some Chuuls, especially older ones, create lairs by digging up a lake bottom and building rudimentary structures from trees and stones, tree roots and stumps and things. Stump often forms the doorway of one of their lairs, and since the Chuul are quite strong, sometimes it would take a character with a combined strength of 15 to move a stump out of the way so that he can actually get it through the doorway. Chuuls construct these lairs as a series of roughly circular rooms, including a trophy room with all those creepshow goodies I mentioned before. Actually, those who love the Predator movies will be quite familiar with the sort of displays the Chuul enjoy. I think Chuul predators would appreciate Chuul and the Predators would appreciate each other's artwork. Those chambers are connected by tunnels just big enough for the largest Chuul in the pod to squeeze through, but it's usually quite large enough for a humanoid to move through. Chuuls hatch from clusters of slimy yellow-green eggs, and the Chuul carapace itself is a yellow-green colour. The adult Chuul lays egg sacs only rarely and will viciously protect them, as well as the egg sacs of any fellow pod members. They don't make any definition between the parentage. If a Chuul with hatchlings finds itself in a food-poor environment, they will attempt to go out and collect humanoid prisoners to feed to its young, and that's when they will trade with other like Underdark communities or desert communities and things with the goodies that they've gotten from other victims. Seemingly counterintuitively to their aforementioned protective care towards their young Chuuls, they'll actually attach edge sacs to the underside of ships, boats and rafts in an attempt to increase the distribution to new lands. And since the young Chuul hatch with those racial memories, they're pretty well able to fend for themselves from a young age. This is exactly how they managed to leave their original home island and make their way to the mainland of Faerun, and from there spread into Kara-tur and Zakara and other planes of existence through magical portals, which they can detect, of course, because they can sense magic. Now, originally, Chuul had an intelligence of 10 in the first listing of them in 3rd edition. This was dropped down to 4 in 4th edition, and it's risen back up to 5 in 5th edition. So, despite their monstrous appearance and that low stat, Chuuls are actually more intelligent in practice than they seem, often setting traps and ambushes for their prey, using flanking tactics, singling out members of groups, and taking down one target at a time. They can't construct or really use any tools for themselves, because, they've just got a massive pincers for hands, but they know how to dominate and force other species into setting up booby traps for them. So they may use troglodytes and things like that, or lizard folk to do that sort of thing. Lizard folk is definitely one of the more common enemies of their kind and forms a staple of their diet. Chuul tend to clearly recall events experienced by previous generations of the race, but the memories fade the further back they go, and such memories always carry one defining message: hate and kill humanoids. It's foremost on their mind. Chuul tend to be rather prone to mutations as well, with magical experimentation, planar rifts and polluted water affecting and altering them far more easily than other creatures. So you can get some outlandish sort of crossbreeds of Chuul and always change them up a bit when the players meet them again, leading to like gigantic or poisonous individuals, or the ones who are infected with spore stuff, or there's other type of Chuul which are combined with the illithid brain slugs, so you end up with this Chuul which is covered in like mind flayer slime, which is kind of funny. Some are truly enormous, and these Chuul have been seen to employ psychic lures which call lesser humanoids into their lair, where they are promptly slaughtered and fed to much smaller offspring. So there's certainly potential to have a king Chuul, like a matriarch of the pod, which has got more intelligence than otherwise would be encountered. However they show up in your game, I certainly hope you enjoy using the Chuul as much as I do. And I can't say the same for my players though, they justifiably hate them. I think the next time I'll just start the encounter by playing the theme music from the Jaws movies. And on that note, happy Shark Week everyone. Just a reminder, if you've not subscribed already, feel free to do so, and be sure to hit that notification bell as I upload from the other side of the world sometime in your future. For access to all of the scripts and 1 week advance access to these videos, consider becoming a patron of the channel on Patreon for a minimum of just $1 per month. Join the community on your Discord server, or our Discord server I should say. Come say hi. Also, if you want to pick up a new video game at a significant daily discount, there's a new game every single day for the link down below for Chrono, which I get a small amount for to support the channel. Link down below in the video description text. And as always, thanks for listening. I'll be back with more for you again very soon.